a battlefield where we lost. And I said, well, should we, not have the national park at Pearl Harbor? We didn't do too good there. But a lot of Americans died there, and a lot of Americans were there because they were asked by their country to be there, and they became the tripwire that energized America to win World War II. So yes, you have to celebrate your wins and your losses. So, Parker's Ferry is a great win for the Americans. It put, Marion's reputation was already made, but it showed that Marion was thinking big picture. He was down in the low country, not in his normal area of operations around here. So if you can, I would ask you to do what I'm doing, and that is send a check to the Battleground Trust. Just put on there Parker's Ferry, and let's help get that money together to close that deal so that the piece of Parker's Ferry, where archaeology has proved the battlefield to be, will be in permanent protection, and we can start the interpretation there, because there is zero interpretation there, zero. So David, thank you for sharing a little bit of your time. I absolutely support the Battleground Trust, and it is not them. Them is us. Thank you.
Does anybody have questions for either of us? Go ahead, Doug.
So, of these 72 sites, is there going to be historic markers and storyboards?
Durant, I am so glad you asked that. Yet, them ain't gonna do it. We have to do it. They don't even know where the sites are.
So what is the process for us to set up historic markers and storyboards at these 72 sites?
There are two angles. One, of course, is the historic markers work for the American Revolution. And raise your hand, Bill. Where's Bill's?
Where's Bill?
Bill Seeger.
Go.
Raise your hand. Stand up. Bill is leading the 250th marker. We're thinking those historic iron markers. So you would contact him. But as to interpretive markers, the other kind that are down, you would contact us or me and the Battleground Trust or Charles.
So is there a process and a procedure in place?
Well, he will teach you the process related to the interpretive state. No, Bill, we're all right, just hold on a second. State markers, and then if you would contact the Battleground Trust about your particular field of interest place.
And is there a cost involved?
Of course, because
how much?
No. You're not. We got to see what you're going to write, how much you're going to write, and what you want to do. All of that is.
Yeah, just generally, a lot of sites in South Carolina are small skirmishes, and probably one sign would be sufficient. But if you're talking about Utah Springs, that covers many square miles and has many phases and operations, then you may be talking about as many as 24. So it's hard to say how much. And since this is a local grassroots effort, I don't think that there's any one magic formula of how to mark a battlefield. Now, there will be electronic cues built into the electronic system that is available, where your cell phone knows where it is geospatially, and so if you're standing on where something happened, it's going to tell you that. But not just everybody likes to get data that way, and not just everywhere data is available that way. And so the old-fashioned signage is something that must be done to mark and tell the stories of all of these battlefields. So I think it's got to be custom.
Somebody else have one? Go ahead.
Two questions. The first one on the markers. I've noticed when I went to, I don't know if it was, I can't remember where it was now, but I remember that. But the site had two sites, and I think this when we went down to Snow's Island. They had markers there, and they were all just beat up. And they were just knocked over, and they were destroyed. And I was wondering, what the heck? What can you do? Number one, you're gonna have to maintain these things. Number two is, the way things are getting now with vandalism, it's just it's not getting better. So
Dave, thanks for bringing that up, and you've reminded me something very important. Every battlefield has got to have a group of people who love it, who adopt it, and who make sure that it's not trashed, make sure people don't dump on you, make sure that the trees aren't stolen, make sure that the grass is cut if there's grass that need to be cut. And just as Bill Seegers is doing with these orphaned historic markers, we're going to have to love these battlefields. There is no they, it's us. Everyone here needs to pick a battlefield, needs to pick a person they love, and love it. And so that answers how it gets maintained. In my experience, often these battlefields only have one person who really loves them. If you want to talk about that to somebody who's here, ask Keith Gordine about loving a place, because Keith does. Okay?
Other questions? Because the questions yesterday.